Yes, thank you, Mayor. Andy Conyers again, Assistant City Manager Administration. So there are several items this evening on your agenda, kind of all related to the same thing. And so what we're going to do is talk about them as in totality. And so for me, item 8, just to walk you through them, is an Edmond Public Works Authority. All these items fall underneath the EPWA's purview. So first I'm going to give a project overview, and then I'm going to turn it over to our bond counsel and financial advisor, who are both here this evening, to talk about item 8A, which is a public hearing related to funding in the YMCA. And then items 8, B, C, and D are 3 resolutions related to funding as well. One for the library and the YMCA for $37.1 million. One is a component of the City Hall and Municipal Court for $34 million. And then the second part of that project with the City Center Complex is the parking garage for $10 million. So as they're only strictly public uses for the library and the YMCA, that money can be borrowed tax exempt. For the City Hall and Municipal Court, the same, so that can be borrowed tax exempt as well. And then for the garage, there's the opportunity for some of those spaces in that garage to be leased at a later date, and so that money will have to be borrowed on a taxable basis, so to allow the flexibility. And then also item 9, which falls under the purview of the City Council. There are 3 items with that: 9A, 9B, and 9C. Easy for me to say. Resolutions related to the City Council approving incurrence of indebtedness by the Edmond Public Works Authority. So my task this evening is to give you project overviews very quickly. Again, we went through the library just a second ago, so I won't spend a lot of time on that, but I did think it would be helpful. Again, I look back over the last 12 months, just in the last 12 months. This also marks the 10th public meeting that we've had to talk specifically about the City Center Complex project. So just a brief overview again, when we're talking about the City Center Complex, what this entails is only the things that are in blue on the screen right now. So what that will be is a 59,000 square foot City Hall, a 4-story, 258, I'll come back to that, 328, I'm sorry. 328 parking garage, and then a little farther to the east here, a 15,000 square foot municipal court. So just to orientate everybody where we're at, so here is Boulevard right here, here is Main Street, and here's First Street, and we are sitting right here this evening in City Council chambers. So the City Hall is proposed to be located on the current footprint of where the downtown community center is. The parking garage, the 4-story garage, is proposed just to be a little bit north where our Planning and Public Works building is, along with some surface parking. And then as you move just a little farther to the east, it's proposed to have a 1-story municipal court building. So again, as we've gone through the programming of this, where we're at on the City Hall is 2 stories, 59,000 square feet. Those are the departments and functions that would be in the 2-story facility. And I think tonight illustrates, it's not this way now, but we have a City Council chambers that's too small for a community of almost 95,000. So you saw lots of people standing behind me earlier this evening. So this would about triple the seating capacity of the space and also allow for more flexibility. So again, like this space, it would have a flat floor, but it would have detached seating. So we'd get a lot more functionality of it than just strictly a public meeting where everyone is faced toward the dais. So additionally, in the City Hall building, there will be public meeting space and additionally room for growth. So about 2,700 square feet of additional office space that doesn't have programmed right now. So what we did is we've been working with departments since July to better understand their staffing needs. So how many employees do you have now? How many do you think you'll have over the next 5 to 10 years? And then how many will you have in the outer years after that? So we plan for growth within the spaces, but then also on the second floor, we've allotted 2,700 square feet for additional room to grow as well as the community continues to grow. Parking garage, as I mentioned, 4 stories, 328 parking stalls, not only intended to meet the need of the City Hall, people that are office there, people that are coming to do business at City Hall and Municipal Court, but also provide public parking as well within that building. And then Municipal Court, which is currently attached to this building right here, just to the south, is proposed to be 1 story, 15,000 square feet, an expanded courtroom and lobby. It's simply not large enough, again, for a community of almost 90, for that exceeds 95,000 now, and then expanded office space for the staff. So they are stacked on top of each other currently. So that is the City Hall components of the City Center project. So again, the project construction budget is $44 million, and the timeline for the project is to begin construction in July 2023, and for that construction to be complete in March of 2025. And here's some renderings that we've been working on with the architectural firm Reese. So really like the look and feel of this, and a chance to really set a little bit different tone as we move over to Littler as opposed to Broadway. So. And I don't, unless you want me to, I don't feel the need to go through the library again. I just did that on a previous item. But so again, lays out the cost split and then talks about when the construction is proposed to begin and then when the construction is proposed to be complete. And then turning attention to the additional items on the agenda this evening. So in order to build these two facilities, the proposal is for the city to acquire, borrow, finance through a borrowing this $81.1 million over a 15-year period, with the repayment to come from one of the two dedicated sales taxes that the city currently has, which we call the 2000 capital improvement sales tax. So that is how this is proposed to be repaid, the debt that the city is proposing and on your agenda tonight to incur. If there's no questions about the projects, I'm going to turn it over to our financial experts. So I've got Alan Brooks and Chris Gander here. I'm not sure who wants to come up first to kind of talk about the mechanics of all this and then the bids that were received today. So,
thank you, Andy.
My name is Alan Brooks. I'm with the Public Finance Law Group in Oklahoma City. Maybe some quick background, because we don't typically have a public hearing per se when we do a tax-exempt transaction. The library YMCA facility falls under a different category of the Internal Revenue Code as it relates to tax-exempt financings by virtue of the fact that it is going to house a 501c3 entity, the YMCA, and there'll be revenues coming back in the form of lease payments from the YMCA. So this is technically referred to as a qualified 501c3 transaction under the relevant provisions of the Internal Revenue Code as it relates to tax-exempt debt. Under those provisions of the code, there's a requirement that there be a public hearing held relative to the facility in question and the financing to be held prior to the approval of the transaction by the governing body. So Mr. Conyers has done a great job of going through the description of the project. And again, the public hearing technically relates to the YMCA library facility as opposed to the City Hall complex. It's a traditional tax-exempt governmental financing. So we do it the same way we would finance streets or a golf course. So at this point, I think it would be appropriate to open this up for any public comment. After that process is done, then Mr. Gander, we've received bids today in connection with the financing. He can walk through those bids. We can also walk through the approving resolutions that are in your packets, answer any questions you have. But I think the next step would be to have any public comment.
Very good.
Any questions from me before that?
All right. I would like to open up the floor to any public comment on our items for the new municipal library in the YMCA building and the new City Hall complex. If you please come down, introduce yourself for all.
Hello, my name is Diane Anderson, and I live here in Edmond, Oklahoma. And out of everything that I have heard tonight, and I'm a little late to the game on this, I haven't heard anything about safety or security. As a mother of a child who has been trafficked, knowing that this library, which I do go to the library here, and I do see plenty of homeless people there during the winter and during the summer, I really just have a hard time wrapping my head around how you guys are merging these two together and not talking about safety. That is paramount when you're talking about your children. Our state has somebody being trafficked through it every 4 minutes. We are one of the top states for human trafficking. So even though I haven't been here at every meeting over the last 12 or 10 months, I'm going to assume through all of it you've spoken about tonight that nothing has been said so far about safety or increasing the police force there. I mean, I just think that this is the biggest thing for me. And I would like to know more in terms of what you guys were planning on doing about that.
Yeah. Well, good question, ma'am. The total building, the inside of the building has not been fully designed yet. And just like with our downtown community center, not the community center, but our complex that we're building for, that is one of the discussions we've had where how to have, just like here for the city council building, how to have safety for people to come into a safe environment. Those same discussions will happen for the design and construction of the Y in the library. Those discussions will be had, and the police department is a part of that discussion to how to ensure the best of our ability that our residents and non-residents who come use our facilities are safe. Next person, please.
Council, can we put the picture up of the where the buildings are going to be again, please? Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, could you state your name for the record, please?
Sorry?
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Thank you, sir. My concern is for seniors.
Introduce yourself first.
Sorry?
You didn't introduce yourself. Your name,
Sorry, sir.
your name.
Leonard Scott, sir. 1404 Woodbury Circle.
Thank you.
Tonight I'm here for seniors. And is the parking garage, is that going to be free? Does anybody know if it's going to be free for people to park in?
Yes.
Okay, great. That's good news. Now, my problem is, for seniors, I'm just going to lay it out for you. For seniors, for us, everything's about time. It takes distance for us to walk, to get to places, and availability of bathrooms pretty close by. That's just a senior thing that we all figure out we got to have, okay? So I've considered, now can we go to the front picture of the new center, the worship center?
You're talking about the
library?
Y and the
No,
library?
the other one, sir. This concerns me. There's no parking places in front. And now when you take the big picture, you look around, where do we park? Where do the seniors park? Where do the handicapped park? Because we've got to walk a heck of a long distance to get to this place. Before, we could pull up in front. There's not even a pull-out, so we can be dropped off. So my concern is that we have to walk there. Mothers with kids have to put in strollers and have to get there. You've got the handicapped that have to get there, and primarily it's all walking. And that kills us, guys. It kills us. We look at this and we go, how in the hell are we going to get in there? That's the question. That's the question on all of this. The other thing I'm concerned with, how much of DI, diversity, inclusion, and equity, are involved in these projects? Open spaces, certain things. How many items are involved in this that involve the diversity, equity, and inclusion requirements in these projects? I have a feeling that if we cut about all that out, we'd save about 40%. That's my estimation based on what I'm seeing here. So that's another concern, is that ideas that we've got to follow. And it's not even, none of us voted for the woke agenda. None of us did that. None of us did equity, inclusion, diversion. None of us did that. And yet it's involved right here in everything you're doing. And that concerns me. I don't know if you guys remember now, Friday, it's going to be bad. It's going to get really bad as far as money flow goes. Inflation's still going up. Us seniors got to pay for all this. Thank God. Okay, so the parking garage is going to be free. Everyone heard that from everybody here. Free to all of us. Okay, that's good. But I'm very concerned of the walking distances involved and how to get in there when there's not even a drop-off for seniors. So I put those to you. I ask for you to take a look at this stuff, how much is involved in the diversity, inclusion, equity business that should be factored into these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There is this is just a conceptual. This is not the final drawing. And in some of the conceptuals we have had were for drive up and drop off. And all of that's also being discussed in the safety aspect. If you look at this picture here, this conceptual drawing, you see those mounds of dirt there. That is part of, and even the bollards there, that's all being thought of part of the safety of the building for we don't want what we've had before in downtown Oklahoma City.
And we appreciate that, but this is what this is for. Is for the elders to stand up and others to stand up and say, have you thought about this? And so I've done my duty in making sure that we thought about taking care of the elderly, the handicapped, the single moms and families with kids that have to get to these places. And that's my concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please come and introduce yourself.
My name is Sky Parker. My concerns are the library and the YMCA coming to you guys as a victim of human trafficking. I-35 is a major highway for that. And Oklahoma is almost ranked number 1 now in human trafficking. And the safety of children at the library, should they be standing outside waiting on parents or whatever, it takes that long for somebody to snatch you up and take off with you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Come down and introduce yourself.
Connie there. My concern is the burden. I know I've heard that this is going to be paid by I'm not certain of that, CIF, something, whatever tax. It's going to come out of that. Well, that tax is something that that tax money, funding that is going to be paying for this is going to be diverted away from things that we need. I heard him say that it's going to be a big building it'll hold 3 times the amount of people we have here. We need this for growth. I mean, I feel like you guys as a body are not looking at the needs of the people. You're looking at the needs of the government. We don't need everything right now. You always talk about this projected growth of 40,000 people within the next 30 years, not within the next 30 days, okay? We don't need to push these big ticket agenda items onto the taxpayers, push the burden onto the taxpayers. Multi-generational, yes. Us, our children, our grandchildren will be paying for these things. This is phase 1. $81 million phase 1. How many more phases are there to come? How much is it going to cost the taxpayers? How much of our tax funding is going to be diverted away from necessary items to pay for these big government growth items, big ticket items? We don't need this. I come to these meetings on a regular basis. I don't see it filled up like this on a regular basis. I see it filled up like this whenever there are items like this on the agenda that the people feel strongly about, and we are here to speak out against your guys' constant building of projects. Look at this golf course that you guys have taken on. Look at all of the problems, the issues that can't even be used, and now you want to turn it into something that's on your phone so you can, additional funds to be able to play golf on your phone since you can't play it for real on the course because of problems you guys are running into. I think you guys just need to pay more attention to what the people need, not to a plan to grow this city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Come on down and introduce yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Brooke Inchurkin.
Could you speak into the mic here?
Brooke Inchurkin. Can you hear me now? Can you go back to the downtown drawings where it had the court? Yeah. So the court, what is north of right across the street? What is that building?
School.
A school right across the street from a courthouse?
It's traffic court, yes.
Traffic court.
Yes.
Perfectly safe. People who are going to and from traffic court? Okay. So there's not kind of a law that court needs to be a certain distance away from an elementary school? I'm just curious. This is my first time of hearing this. So I saw that and I'm like, isn't that like a little elementary school right across the street? I mean, if I was a parent there, that would definitely be alarming to me. Is this something that I should not be concerned with? I'm just asking. I'm not criticizing. I'm just curious. This is all new to me. Is that appropriate? I'm just asking. I'm not.
Okay. That's why I made it's traffic court, ma'am. It's people coming in paying traffic fines and tickets. It's not any of the hardcore, bad criminal atmosphere. That is handled by Oklahoma County.
Okay. And my next question is the library and YMCA development right on the side of the 35. I'm all for a healthy growth. I think there's a balance of wanting to improve our city and grow. How do you guys come up with the need of a library? I mean, kids aren't even using books anymore in schools. No one is using books. I mean, maybe like for, little baby hour story time and senior citizens, but from kindergarten through high school, I guarantee you no one is going to be setting foot in a library. So how do you guys say $37 million of our money is going to go towards that? I'm just curious.
Actually, as Mr. Conyers mentioned, the Edmond Library is the most used library in the state.
Which is like 2
there are
miles.
There are many other services provided in a library, not just checking out books. All right, there's use of computers, there's printers, there's meeting space. It will be used, and this is actually something that residents have said for 20 years that they want. This is something that citizens want and have asked for a long time.
Do they know you're spending $80 million?
Sorry?
Do they know it's going to cost $80 million?
It's actually going to cost $30 million.
Or $37.5. I'm sorry.
Right.
This was the additional $35 million. So the total cost is about $80 million for the 2 proposed projects. Yeah. Okay.
And $13 million would be paid back by the Y, and these are amenities that the community wants and will use and will enrich the community.
Okay. So the fact that it's about 2.5 miles away from each other, the current Y and library from the proposed site, they're about 2.5 miles apart.
It's more than 2.5 miles. Also, one of the number one complaints we have is traffic. East Edmond's growing, people being able to go have meeting space, YMCA, library closer to where they live means less traffic on our roads too. So this is something that also Mr. Conyers had said. I would encourage anyone who wants to learn more about these projects to go back and look at the meetings where there's been even more detail about the projects. There's a lot of really good information that's recorded and on the website. If you want to go back to the agendas, you can see the item on the agenda. Go right to that video, so you don't have to watch all the other things.
We'll definitely make sure the word gets out. I think if even a tiny bit of the community knew this was going on, they would probably not.
It's all been out there. It's been publicized. There's articles. There's information. It's out there.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
I might comment on paperback books. I mean, we can agree to disagree, but I have 2 10-year-olds, and they both still read paperback books. So they learned to read that way. We did reading programs at the downtown library, and they still read them. So
okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Ashley Hall. I've lived in Edmond over 24 years. My 2 oldest girls graduated from high school here. Now my grandkids are going to school here. So I am proud of the city I live in, and I am proud of the services we provide. I will say in the 25 years I've lived here, I've never attended one time at the Edmond Library. Shame on me. I don't believe either of my daughters, who are now 43 and 38, have ever been in the Edmond Library. Shame on them. And we're all readers. We love books. My big issue is I love sometimes to go down to downtown Oklahoma City, and there is a beautiful library downtown Oklahoma City, and it's right by the court system. And there are nasty, and I mean no disrespect to homeless people, but there are some really bad, nasty people that are outside that facility every single day. They're also inside the facility camping out every single day. How are we going to keep that from happening off of I-35 out there, where it's kind of like in I don't know, no man's land per se. And I'm kind of one of those, a little bit of an environmentalist in the fact that we have some buildings here. Is there not any way to renovate and maximize even better usage of the buildings we have? I've seen all kinds of TV shows where they're flipping homes. Why can't they flip some of these buildings to make them more efficient, both economically for the citizens of Edmond and not be burdened with the big tax bill that's going to be, 15 years we're going to be paying for this? And all of us here know that that really means more like 30 to 50 years, because never has there been anything that's been paid on time in anything that government's been involved with. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
I wasn't planning on speaking tonight. I'm Carolyn Munholland. I live at 810 Hawthorne Place. I've lived in Edmond since '74, so I've seen a lot of change. And I just want to address, first of all, the library. I used to live on 15th east of Air Depot, and I used to ride my bike to the library in downtown Edmond. So I am so excited that you guys are working on a library in East Edmond that'll be a neighborhood library for East Edmond, because that's where we're growing. Henderson Hills Church is right by the new library. Integris. I go to Integris all the time. I feel no fear, and I'm not trying to discount anybody's, how do I put this? I'm not trying to discount anybody's pain or something that's happened to them, but the campus of Integris is right off of I-35. It's beautiful. You feel safe. Henderson Hills, the church, which are you not sharing some parking space with Henderson Hills? It's right there. So to me, safety is all about what you guys eventually put in and what we as parents, allow our kids to do. So the safety thing didn't really get me. So I'm very excited about the Y. I'm very excited. Edmond's grown so much. To me, we're way far behind a lot of things that we could have done just because it costs a lot of money. I'm really excited about the City Hall and the parking garage and the court, because I serve on a commission, and how many buildings do you all have that the different employees work out of? So there's no synergy. There's no, okay, if I want to talk to a different department, I've got to drive so many miles or try to get a meeting. The parking garage, I think, is going to be great for downtown. I've been to traffic court with my daughter. I encourage anybody who has a teenager about to drive to go to traffic court, see what it's like. They actually tell stories of my older daughter who had no reason for her accident except it was a bad intersection, but they try to tell people, educate, something bad can happen to you. So I'm fully in support of what you guys are doing. I'm really proud of you guys, and I hope for the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, come introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Dana Hardy Stover. I live here in Edmond, and I was disappointed.
Ma'am, did you get it? Can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'm disappointed to hear that we're leveraging $81 million to build another YMCA and another library. I understand that we will need over time to update maybe a 50-year-old municipal building and the offices that are there, because I'm sure that the services are growing while the population is growing, but we presently have 2 YMCAs, and I'm proud to say that I've been a patron of both. I don't understand why we need a third one. And I hear loud and clear what some of the other people have said about security issues along I-35, the I-35 corridor, as we all know. There's drug trafficking and there's human trafficking. There's concerns that are relatively new to Oklahoma, in my mind. Maybe in the last 4 years, they've really come to light. They've received more press, let's put it that way, since about 2018. Those are concerns of mine. And let's see here. how much of the 81 million total is going to that YMCA/library complex?
That's 37.1, correct?
Correct.
37.1 million for the YMCA and the library project.
Which the YMCA is paying back up to $13 million.
Right.
So it's really on the taxpayers for about 24 million of that?
37 miles.
Right.
Okay. Given that we had done a recent update to the library that's on Boulevard, what's the appeal of building another one? And are we going to knock down the existing one, or are we going to have two libraries?
We're going to have two libraries.
We're going to have two libraries. We're going to have 3 YMCAs.
At the current time, yes.
That's the plan?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Why would we need 3 YMCAs?
I think it's important to know that the YMCA actually approached the city for their needs. Mitch Park is the #1 visited facility in the metro out of their 14 facilities. They're full. The basketball courts, the workout facilities, the youth programs that they have there. The library, the downtown library, it can't grow where it's at right now. It has been rehabbed, which is very nice. But in the same subject, it can't grow classrooms and reading programs or adult programs. And so they're in the same boat, but they need additional growth. And so where we're placing it towards East Edmond, where we do project the highest percentage of population growth in the future, not only have we believed so far that it's needed now, but will be needed even more in the future.
I think with the recent upgrades and updates that we've done to the library and the fact that we have 2 still functioning, like I said, I've used the library and I've used the YMCA, both of them, Mitch Park and the Rankin YMCA. They both have a unique character unto themselves. I just don't see the need. It seems like a misplaced priority when we can't seem to keep Coltrane, for instance, which is, I use Coltrane every day, multiple times a day, and it's in terrible disrepair. Several of the roads that I use, I feel like maybe the city of Edmond is hurting for some money. We can't seem to keep our roads nice. Why is my car being beat up by the poor condition of the roads? And so it just seems like a misplaced priority when we currently have facilities that are not in disrepair. That as a user of these facilities, I don't feel like we need more. And I guess my final comment on that would be the placement on the I-35 corridor. Aside from the obvious security concerns, you have a rural community for the most part that's east of I-35. And if these people want to live in a rural setting with trees, we're going to be taking them down with more development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Council. My name is Leslie Mahan. And I have a couple of questions. One, this library that you are working on building, they are part of the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Library System. Am I not correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you aware that the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Library System implemented Drag Queen Story Hour in 2021? That during June Pride Month, that this body totally and completely agreed to, has activities, 19 branches, including the Edmond locations, with videos, activities, readings with drag queens. These people are talking about human trafficking. This is just as dangerous as anything, because this is how these people are getting to our children. They want to basically just pretend just so they can get to our kids. I'm sorry, I'm a mother of a 15-year-old daughter, and I don't allow her to go to the library anymore because I don't trust it. It is not a safe place. And I want y'all to be aware of that. This is very serious. So I don't understand why you think that we need this in our city. There are many other things that can be spent in a much better manner for us. We are the citizens of this city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Come down and introduce yourself, please.
My name is Dr. Billy Putnam. Been a citizen of Edmond since 1970. Probably the oldest one here, I'm thinking. Been here a long time. There were 12,000 people, I think, when I moved to Edmond. Really concerned about the cost of all of this and the needs for it. I've been knocking doors every Saturday and Sunday for the last month or so against the marijuana issue and other the elections that are coming up and so forth. And one of the questions that I ask when I knock on the door is, what is your number one concern as a citizen of Edmond? And almost 99% of the time, I hear it's the traffic, it's the traffic, it's the roads, it's the roads. And I just don't think we have our priorities right. I think the citizens of Edmond are concerned about other things besides a new $44 million city hall or $41 million, whatever it was, and a new library and a new YMCA. I think money could be spent elsewhere. You know, 11%, I think it's about 11% of your budget, is it not, going to the debt, to pay down the debt? And then you're going to raise that another, lots of millions. So I just think that we need to think it through and listen to the citizens of Edmond.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Terry Lopes. I have not been here 20 years, 30 years, 10 years, almost 2 years now. First off, I agree about the roads, but I don't know if you guys are aware that you guys are not, Edmond, we are not up to federal standards for traffic. Did you guys know that? We have the wrong stop signs, the signs. I know this for a fact because my husband did it in Oregon, and he had to know that manual, and there's a couple big thick ones, and he had to do striping of the roads, and you're supposed to have them striped more than we do here. The stop signs are the wrong size, and Edmond is at risk. If there's several places here in this town that we're at risk, and I don't know if you know that, but if there's a wreck and somebody gets injured, they can sue Edmond for not having the right standards. This is where we need to focus on, is the traffic and the roads. Because I know that. Because in Oregon, where I'm from, if somebody died if we had 2 or 3 deaths, and I'm just saying, at an intersection that's not marked or put a stop sign, they can sue them. You can get sued. We could sue the city or the county, or if it's a state one. And Edmond does not have it, and I've told a lot of my friends, this is not right striping, and my husband's just having a fit, because that's his job for over 25 years almost. And we don't meet those standards. And now we want to put money into a new library and a Y. Now about the Y. I went and looked up how Ys are paid for. And it's not by cities. It's not cities loaning money. It's by grant and private citizens' donations. So why are we getting into this? I want to know. Why? And then you guys are saying it's going to be 15 years, we're going to pay for it back. You guys know what the economy's like right now? What if they default? Who's stuck with that bill? We, the citizens. I'm retired. My husband's retired. I didn't move here from Oregon to have more taxes shoved down my throat like I got in Oregon without voting. You didn't give us a chance to vote and let us know if we want that or not. You say, oh, yeah, all the people know and we want it. You didn't give us a chance to even know. We can talk now. But it sounds like you already made your mind up that you're going to do it. And that really ticks me off because I'm looking at the roads and the dangers. And I make my way around town, and I have ways I go to be the least the least dangerous intersections, just to be safe. My husband's 75. I don't feel comfortable letting him drive in Edmond because the elderly cannot turn their heads. Do you know that? You can't turn your head and look over your shoulder good. How many more deaths or injuries or wrecks are we going to have here because of illegal striping, illegal signage, and the poor quality of roads? That should be our first concern, not some library and YMCA that's getting funded not the way they say they fund. That's really irritating to me that you guys, it's like, nope, let's just use, it's not our money. It's the taxpayers. Put it on their back. Well, I'll be honest. My husband and I moved here because we thought the tax situation would be better. It is income tax-wise, but not property tax-wise.
The city is funded by sales and use tax, 100%. We don't get property tax.
We don't pay property taxes?
Goes to the schools. So sales and use tax is how the municipal government is funded. And so if you don't purchase things in Edmond city limits, then you're not paying
I was
the
not aware of
tax,
that. Thank you.
You're
But
welcome.
still, the roads and signage are illegal.
We
we
will
need
look
to work
into
on
that.
that. I just know that because I've when you hear my husband complaining, oh, they have the wrong sign, that's a 24-inch, that's supposed to be a 36. And the striping, he just is going off on the striping, how it's not good, and if there'd be a lawsuit, and he goes, what would our city be stuck with? The other thing is, I was a juvenile corrections officer, and I worked with kids that were trafficked from the age of 3. And I'm really concerned about where that library is compared to, because Oregon also has a human trafficking problem too. And it's frustrating to see how close that is. And I've worked with those kids that have been trafficked since the age of 3 and up. And it just really concerns me. I mean, I've had them try to kill themselves because of being, and so I just don't want the kids to have to deal with that. And one of the things God told me when I was moving here, because I prayed a lot, is he says, come protect my children. And having, like they were saying, drag queen stuff at the Oklahoma, the library system, that's really, they don't need to be sexualized that young, but that's something else. But anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Ed Moore, Mayor Davis, members of the City Council. Some of us here can remember the time when a U.S. Senator got up in front of the Senate and says $1 million here and $1 million there, and that's going to add up. Well, doesn't seem like too many years later, and we got here in the city of Edmond, we've got $40 million here and $40 million there. And that might add up. A lot of people didn't know about this, and I'm amazed that Andy said it's been up before the City Council 10 times. Mm-hmm. I really don't remember that, but I do know that when Bob's menu from around the corner came out last month, there was a whole lot of questions about this that people didn't know about until Bob's. Now, not everybody eats it around the corner, and not everybody reads Bob's newsletter, but it was right on the front page. So my idea is that we're compressing a whole lot here in one meeting to jump forward with this, and I think the citizens need more time to make their input on $40 million here and $40 million there before it's finalized.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, please come down and introduce yourself.
Anthony Tompkins. I live in the Wagon Wheel Edition. I just want to say that y'all are doing good. I hear a lot of stuff, a lot of fear-mongering. I hear a lot of talk about money, but what I hear mostly is we didn't know. Guys, you knew. We all knew. We read the agendas, we come to these meetings. You guys knew. We vote on things. We knew. I think this is great. I think it's about time we start catching up with other areas. And with regard to the roads, yeah, I just spent $1,000 on my truck today because of these roads. So I'd like to see that happen too. With this notion about lack of inclusion, you know, if you're looking to have wheelchair ramps and make it easy for the handicapped and elderly, that's inclusion. If you're not including those people, that's exclusion. And I think a lot of what I'm hearing here is about exclusion, and that makes me sad. You guys are doing great. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Kathy Beatty, and I'm mostly here because it just came to my attention as far as the expense and how it was going to be financed. And I lived in Edmond whenever, I've been here since 87, and I can remember when they built the public center and they were going to do a property tax on everyone, and then we decided to do the sales tax. So that has been a good point that was brought up in regard to that tax didn't go away. If you'll remember, we've kept renewing. It used to be in Edmond, we had a lower tax than Oklahoma City, and now we've kept that tax and we keep rolling it over to finance projects. And I'm not against this is quality of life versus nuts and bolts as far as the quality of our traffic and the life of those hard things like water and all the things that the city does. But I do believe that it's going to cost more than they think, it's going to take longer to pay for it, and that we have to consider the economy and what's going forward. And it does seem like the decision has already been made, and I'm too late. I just found out about this. And so I do watch your website, and I have seen the feedback. You guys have been very good to try to, whether it was Edmond, Arcadia, or different things that are going on, but I understand that it's 1 out of 5 of the dollars that the city of Edmond has is going to go to these projects. My understanding is the payback is $8 million a year, and that's a lot of money for how many people in the city of Edmond are going to be using these services. And it's not revenue generating, it's overhead for the city if we're going to be maintaining all these facilities. And I don't think your goals are being met when it comes to you're saying that all the facilities are going to be all included in regard to getting back to the city hall. My understanding is we're still going to have other facilities that are outside of that area. It's not all going to be under one roof. I could be wrong, but I'm just saying 1 out of $5 is a lot. It's going to take a long time to pay for it. And so we're looking at quality of life versus necessities. And I think a lot of people have brought that up. And I'm like the older lady. I'm not as old as she is. But I just wanted to thank you for your gracious time to listen to everyone. And I know the law makes you all do it. And I appreciate all that you guys do every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am.
One thing that I do want to mention that we've talked about previously, and Andy said it tonight, but these projects we've set, that's it. 37.1 million, 40 million, that's it. And so we have the CMAR process so that if expenses go up in some area, then we're making adjustments somewhere in the plan.
But
so
for the city center, they reduced it.
Ma'am, if you want to speak, please come back up to the microphone.
Okay. I really appreciate your knowledge. I voted for you. But what I'm saying is they reduced a lot of what they wanted to do. If you'll remember when the police department needed help and we needed a new police department, they had to lower that, what they wanted to do, by a third, is how it got reduced. So I've been here for a while. And so I know that these kind of things, some things look really nice, but they're a lot of maintenance. And it's like, well, that's a really pretty building. That's more for the city to produce. And the economy is not in a place. That is a good point to make out when you've got banks that are failing and we've got a whole lot of uncertainty going on right now. And we'd rather be in a nice community where we have things that we can take care of versus being overstretched and now we can't fix our roads. So we have one little paper up here to fix the roads. We're spending $4 million on doing trails, but we only have $1 million for potholes.
There's
Right.
actually a lot more allocated for roads. I think that was a misstatement
Well, I know
at
there
some
are
point.
some projects.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
I
just one
understand.
one area
With the county.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys are, I mean, I just, you know, I really do appreciate what you said, but it's a lot, you've already decided what you're going to do, so really all we're saying is lip service, I think, because I don't know that it's going to matter.
I think a
But-
lot of the concerns expressed here tonight are concerns that will be incorporated into the plan. I mean, we have talked about the project quite a bit for a year or more. But yeah, but I don't think it's lip service. I don't think it's a waste of time if people have concerns about the projects, so that people can incorporate those into the plans and into safety. And I mean, and a lot of this is being discussed. But yeah, no, it's valuable input.
Thank you.
Andy, could I, just even for my own education, Andy, would you mind, off the top of your head, I'm surprising you with this, but I think you know a few, what other buildings and projects have been financed before in Edmond or are currently financed?
Yeah. So what other buildings have been financed? So
Well, it's interesting to me that people are leaving when we're actually talking about what they're passionate about, and they've left. So,
Well, what I'm really
Go
asking
ahead.
is,
Sorry, I'm just.
Wait a minute. No, wait a minute.
It's just really interesting to me that when we're actually trying to share information, people leave the
And
room.
we're going to keep
And then
sharing
I'll get
information.
abused.
We're going to keep sharing information. Andy, go ahead, please, sir.
All right.
So it's not uncommon for Edmond, and it's not uncommon for any other municipality or city. So maybe share some examples.
Yeah, so certainly. So as was brought up earlier, the Kickingbird Golf Course. So there was money borrowed to pay for that. There's all. Yeah, Kickingbird Golf Course, there was money borrowed to pay for that, as well as with that issuance that came before the council and was approved in July of 2021, $40 million was borrowed. So currently $20 million has been spent on Kickingbird, as well as improvements to our intelligent traffic system, as well as the future widening to the Danforth and Kelly intersection. So those are some projects, one that's ongoing and two that will move forward in the future. So I will say it is, while the city does move forward sometimes with issuing debt, we have for a number of years prior to that lived within our means. So the Public Safety Center was a project that was brought up earlier. So that was funded. That was roughly about a $38 million project when you include the South Support Facility. That is also a police department facility. That was a temporary sales tax over a 5-year period. And so I think what we did is we asked residents, would you spend a half cent more? Would you vote to tax yourself a half cent more for 5 years to pay for these two buildings? And residents said yes. And then that facility was completed. And then we spent about a year looking at different other capital projects if that tax were to be extended. There was a short-term task force that was appointed for that. And then, so 3 of the projects that came out of that then residents went to the vote, went to the ballot box and said, yes, I approve this tax to be extended for 10 years and repurposed. So 3 of those projects are on the agenda this evening. So one of those was a parking garage in downtown. One of those was consolidation of city offices, and the other one was a new library.
So also in a different division, wastewater treatment plant.
You bet.
New water treatment plant.
You bet. Yeah.
And something we had to have for
absolutely. Sorry, I wasn't thinking about the utilities. I guess in my mind, I was thinking about the 2 dedicated sales taxes that are currently collected right now within the city of Edmond. So, yes, when it comes to growth, when you talk about wastewater and water, then the city is undergoing a lot of things right now in order to not only meet the needs of where we're at, but also look at future growth as well. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to close the public comment portion now on the library and the YMCA. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Well, hold on. This is a citizen that had come. You're our last one, sir. Please come introduce yourself.
Thomas Lewis. I'm a resident of Edmond, and I just have one question. If these projects are so important, why not actually pay for them? Why the debt?
Why the debt? Because we've gone, and our fiduciary council is going to help explain that. Because it was going to cost more if to pay for them, the bill was going to be higher. And our fiduciary council is going to answer that for us today. But all the discussions that we've had prior to this, from our finance committee meetings to our open public meetings, have all addressed that. And as Mr. Conyers said, 3 of the items that we're talking about tonight were voted on by the vote of the people some time ago to do this, and now we're implementing it.
And I think just trying to balance all the needs of the city. I mean, people definitely have opinions. There are things that some people use, some people don't, but balancing all those needs. And then there is some thought, too, that if we decide we're building a library in YMCA, or we need to build a new city center complex, that maybe today's residents shouldn't pay 100% of that cost, but it should be spread out over a number of years, because people over a number of years will be enjoying those facilities. So I think a mix of pay for it now and debt is appropriate in municipal government. I mean, somebody else could maybe say that better. I don't know. But I think that's a fair question.
If you had to pay for them in cash, would you be proposing this?
Yeah. Yes.
Really? Okay.
We don't. One thing that hasn't been highlighted today with the city center complex, people were talking about growth for the future. We don't have enough office space for our current employees now. We have people in closets and basements, and we need people to provide these vital services to the community, and we need to attract and retain that talent. They also need to be able to work together. I think Mrs. Munholland mentioned, you want planning and zoning actually in the same building so they can have those conversations. So it's not just let's build a big, tall building. And then there are some properties that the city currently owns that will be sold. Those properties then will be developed, which will increase sales tax revenue. And so we can hire better use for some of the properties than a one-story city building. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Okay.
So that will offset some of the ultimate cost, I think, when the city looks at selling some of the property that's being vacated to consolidate and build up. And that will offset some of the costs, too.
Okay.
And increase sales tax revenue, which means we have more money to fix roads and do things. And we are doing a lot of road projects. One complaint we get is, can you fix the roads? But then we're fixing the roads and they're complaining, can't you finish one project before you start another? So I think there's just, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for taking my question. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're ready for our fiduciary part of the. What?
Oh, is he talking to you?
Yeah, he was talking to Christy.
Where's he?
So I'm Chris Gander with BOK Securities. We serve as the fiduciary, the municipal advisor to the city. As you all know, we've been here on multiple occasions talking through the finance of these projects. We were here in January kind of getting a consensus of how you guys wanted to move forward. And at that time, you guys gave us authorization to send out bid packets to various financial institutions, which we did. And we had bids due today at 12 o'clock. And in front of you...
We can't read that slide. It's too small for us to read.
We had bids due today at 5 o'clock. And so back to the PowerPoint presentations you've seen, we had 3 separate notes. We had the $37.1 million for the YMCA library, which is the 501c3 that required the public hearing that we had. Then we have the $34 million, which we're calling the 2023B, which is for the city hall. And then the $10 million 2023C, which is a taxable series. It has to be a taxable rate instead of tax exempt because of different private activity laws potentially. So with that, and we can start at the top on the bid results. We received 2 bids. Webster Bank at 4.14, prepayable anytime after 6 years, which we talked about a little bit about this. If we did a bond issue, the standard prepayment language is 10 years on a bond issue. And then we had the cover bid from Prosperity Bank at 5.3%. I mean, we had other banks that would be interested, but there's a lot to going through this, getting it approved. So this is below what we had projected. We'd kind of used 450 as kind of our blended rate, and what we're shooting for. So we're happy with the 414 rate. We can go down to, we'll just cover them all, and then you guys can decide what you want to do. Then we have the $34 million 2023B. RCB Bank, that's Roger County Bank here in Oklahoma. Very similar. I mean, it's a little bit higher, but 4.339. Same thing on the redemption language, pretty flexible, prepayable anytime after 5 years, no penalty. Once again, Prosperity was the second bid on that. And then we can scroll down to the 2023C, Webster Bank at a 5.24, and RCB was at a 6.24. And once again, the prepayment provisions are pretty similar. Webster was at after 6 years, RCB after 5. So you generally don't build up extra cash to pay these off. But if we do go into a downward economy and rates come back down, I mean, we're still historically not at that higher rates. We just had a really, really low base there for a while. So if by chance rates come down after 5 years, you guys could refinance these for an economic gain and potentially lock in even lower rates instead of having to wait 10 years on a potential bond issue. I think the only other thing I talk about, I mean, I live here, so I'm just probably better for me not to address any of the questions unless you all ask me any questions. But, I mean, these are done on 15-year financings. They're not 30. I mean, a lot of communities, they're stretching themselves thinner, and they're having to go out 30 years. That's the other reason we're able to do these with bank placements and not have to do them as a bond financing, is because it was 15 years. Banks aren't going to lock in rates this low for much more than 15. Maybe we could have found a bank that would go 20, but you're never going to get a 30-year fixed rate term. So we're happy with the results. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So you said lock in, just to make it clear. If we accepted any of these, it would be 15 years fixed.
Yeah, we've given the term, so it's 15 years fixed. And I will say in your resolutions, we're authorizing to move forward, and we have not to exceed rates in there. But just in case we get to some sticking point with one of these banks and they won't bend and it's something we can't change in the different documentations, we have an opportunity to switch to one of the other banks at those rates if we need to. Hopefully that won't happen. It's just we don't want to have to come back and go through the whole process if something comes up like that.
And so also no penalty for paying these off early.
That is correct.
So that gives us additional flexibility to manage money as we go forward.
And as we talked about, you guys get to invest these proceeds, so you can buy treasuries or whatever, which is, really close to what you'll be paying on these things. So I know we had a lot of discussions in January at that meeting. So happy to revisit any of those you want to, if you want other people to hear that. But it's obviously online if anybody wants to view it.
You want to give a minute or quick explanation of private bank financing versus bonds?
Sure, and this is where we got into some different longer sheets, and we have different security structures outstanding, and we have one security structure that has a utility system revenue pledge and a 3/4 cent, kind of a senior pledge on each of those, and those have different. They're issued under a certain indenture. We call that kind of the senior bond indenture, and inside of those indentures, they have different covenants. So, for example, that structure has a debt service reserve covenant, meaning you have to kind of create a rainy day fund. And there's a 3-pronged test, but effectively it's going to be about 10% of what you borrow. So instead of borrowing $80 million, you'd be borrowing $88 million, and then you'd be dropping $8 million in a rainy day fund. And if we did a bond issue, that would be the tranche or the indenture we'd need to go under. This one we're going under the indenture that's a 2-cent sales tax, and it does not require the debt service reserve fund. But the banks here are considered sophisticated investors, whereas if we're doing a bond issue, there's mom and pops buying small amounts that kind of need that extra protection. So generally, if you're doing a public bond offering, you want to have that reserve fund. And then there's a third one we won't need to really get into, but it's a junior pledge of both of those. And it's really just the Oklahoma Water Resources Board loans that you all have outstanding, which we use because it's a below market rate, but it can only be used for water and sewer infrastructure and drainage, as Alan will point out if he likes pointing out when I'm wrong.
Very good. Council, any other questions?
And as you all know, I mean, we have the, you're going to authorize, if you choose to, under the authority, and then we have the sister item on the city side. So that's your 6 agenda items.
I'm not one comment relative to the resolutions that were in your packets. They had a blank for where we could fill in a purchaser. I have tweaked those resolutions slightly, sent those to Mr. Murdoch to review. But essentially what we did is we just would be, if the resolutions were adopted tonight, it would be awarded to a, quote, financial institution at the rates, not to exceed the rates that Chris has mentioned in his slide here. So the interest rate would be locked in. We couldn't go above the rates that have been discussed on the screen. But we're, again, not naming the specific financial institution. That would be signed off on by the chairman or vice chairman with a certification as we go through and make sure that we kind of work through the process. We got term sheets today from each of the bidders, so we've got documents prepared. We'll incorporate provisions of those term sheets, circulate those, and again, the thought would be if this is approved this evening, we would close these financings by the end of the month.
Okay, Council. Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not real good with this stuff. Just curious, because the city properties, the red ones that were all going to possibly be sold, they're going to be kept as city properties?
The red properties are the proposed buildings that
Sites.
we're going to.
Because I remember
the garage,
one of
the
you
city.
mentioned about
Yep.
some being for sale.
There's some other pieces of property, for example.
It is the red ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the red ones.
I'm sorry, wrong color. Sorry.
Okay, so
Yeah.
am I understanding that the future redevelopment or stuff, those would be possible properties that would be redeveloped by other businesses that?
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm
Yes.
just curious, if we sign up for a 15-year locked-in rate and we sold those, and this is prime real estate, it could probably generate a large portion. Would they not be paid off, those, or would that money just
No,
miraculously?
that's what we've been talking about, man. We have the
That's what I want to
flexibility to going in this method. We have the flexibility to pay off early.
Okay,
Normally,
so
it's
we do have
10
the
years.
ability.
Yes, we're going to have that
And
flexibility.
would the citizens of Edmond be assured that that would be what would happen? That things like that would be used to pay off those debts so that it would not be passed on to my grandchildren?
Well, it's not going to be, I mean, there's a 15-year note, and
I'm just saying, if these were sold for like a large sum of money,
sure,
they could not pay these notes off early?
we can.
can.
That's
Yeah,
what,
we can.
that's
Okay,
what
that's
we're
what
talking.
I'm
We
hearing, two
can,
different-
but we're not going to in advance tell you
No,
that that is exactly what we would
So
do.
then that, what you're saying is you would not pay it off early, even if you
We
could?
could.
We could.
You could, but
I'm not
you're-
going to tell you today what I'm probably not going to be sitting here in 7 years. So, but I mean, they'll make a decision on the best use of those
I
funds
just wondered
if
if
they
it was
sold
going to
the
be in
property.
some way in any kind of the decision-making process as to if
So-
this prime real estate were to be sold, that the citizens of Edmond would not be continually burdened by this decision for this.
Yes, ma'am. That conversation has been part of all of our
Okay, so
financial
I'm just-
conversations. Earlier this year or last year, we actually paid off some additional debt
Right.
that we had. So we are always looking to decrease our debt as fast as possible.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Anything else, Alan?
I have one more question. So, my name is Terry Lopes. And it's Lopes, not with a Z, but an S, okay? Thank you, and TERI.
Thank you.
Save the ink, no extra R's. So, my question is, you said that we don't pay taxes, our property taxes don't go to funding, and we do pay a portion of property taxes to Metro Library. So how will we be paying more for this library too? Will that add on more of our property taxes? No. But, so we do pay property taxes for the libriaries?
If through your property tax it goes to the Metropolitan Library System,
Right, so
I don't know the exact percentage, but the city of Edmond does not currently receive any of its revenue from property tax, only sales and use tax.
Okay. I just want to clarify that because I know we pay I went and had my husband look it up, and we did pay taxes for the city library.
Correct. But it's not per library, it's just for the Metropolitan Library System.
Any other questions for Alan?
Alan, how do you feel about them?
I think we ended up about the rates that financial advisor thought we would. Pretty choppy market we're in right now, so we were pleased to have these interest rates.
Couldn't talk Webster into all three of them?
There were discussions, and Webster took more than they planned on taking initially. So we were pleased with that. We really were. So
very good. Well,
those interest rates are actually better than what I had assumed they'd be. That's good.
So average, I'm guessing 4.7, 4.8.
Mm-hmm. It's actually just because there's 37 million such have the tackle's only 10 million. It's really right at the 4.34 average. Yeah.
Nice.
any questions regarding what I noted earlier in terms of how we've made the resolutions for a purchase or as to be determined?
Well, that question goes to our lawyer. Does he have any additional questions for the tweet?
No. Mayor and Council, the next three items on your agenda, items 8B, C, and D, are three different resolutions. The first one relates to the 2023A, and you have 2023B, and then 2023C relates to all the projects we've just been talking about. B is the YMCA library project. C is the City Hall Municipal Court project, and D on your agenda is the parking garage project. So if there's no further questions, I'm prepared to give you the numbers for each of those items and we can proceed.
Mr. Murdoch, can I make one other point?
Sure.
Under Oklahoma law, both at the authority level and at the city level, these require a supermajority or a 4/5 vote to pass.
Okay, very good. Go ahead. Okay, thank you, sir. So 8A, public hearing pertaining, no, we did that. 8B, discussion and consideration of resolution number
5-23.
5-23, authorizing the Edmond Public Works Authority, to issue its sales tax revenue note series 2023A in one or more series or subseries in the aggregate principal amount of $37,100,000. Collectively, the 2023A note, waiving competitive bidding and authorizing the 2023A note to be sold on a negotiated basis, ratifying and confirming a sales tax agreement by and between the City of Edmond, Oklahoma, the city, and the authority pertaining to a year-to-year pledge of certain sales tax revenue, approving and authorizing execution of a supplemental note indenture authorizing the issuance and securing the payment of 2023A note, providing that the organizational document creating the authority is subject to the provisions of the note indenture, ratifying and confirming the holding of a public hearing, authorizing and directing the execution of the 2023A note and other documents relating to the transaction and containing other provisions relating thereto. Sales tax revenue note series 2023A, YMCA Library Project 501c3. We need a motion, please, Council. We're going to take them one at a time.
I move to approve item 8B.
You have a motion?
Second.
Second, please cast your vote. That item is passed.